There we go. We are live. We are live on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and one day I'll be able to do it on YouTube, and one day I'll be able to do it on Instagram too. Guys, I'm sat here with Aaron Knightley. He's an investor, he's an entrepreneur, he's an author, content creator, podcast host, YouTuber, event host, founder, and much more. He's a lovely chap. We've had a bit of time to talk off camera. We've also done a podcast together on Aaron's podcast this morning. So enjoyed our little conversations we've had, and I know that you guys are going to enjoy listening to us here too. As well as it's been live, it will form part of our podcast network as well. But Aaron, welcome to the show.
Mate, thanks so much for having me. And I feel like the warm up with our podcast that we've just done, I think it's set us in quite nicely. You know, sometimes it takes a 5-10 minute to get rocking and rolling, but I feel like we're ready to take
already bezies. We can get straight into the meat. Listen, let's start at the beginning, and I guess some of my questions have come out from the conversation that you and I had a few minutes ago together as well. You're a successful guy now, but you were brought up in a family that didn't have any money, and I think one of the excuses, and I am going to say excuse, not a reason, that people use to say that they can't get ahead in life, that they can't build a business, that they can't be successful, is because they were born into poverty, and that therefore it's supposed to go without saying that by being born into it, you must therefore stay in it. Talk to me a bit about your upbringing and how. And any, let's say, positive or negative mindsets imparted on you by your parents, and how and when you decided to break away?
Yeah, I think I learned really early on that no one comes to save you. I've seen my parents just graft. They've had good habits. So I will say, for not having really much money, they had really good habits. They wouldn't spend money that they didn't have. They didn't get into debt. They didn't borrow money. So although they never had any, they really showed me like good fundamentals. Like, Aaron, if we don't have it, we're not having it. You know, you can't, unfortunately, you want that, but we just can't afford it. So I think I really understood the value of money quite early on. And using the word excuses, now you're absolutely bang on, is that I just realized no one was coming to save my parents. No one is going to be coming to save me. I'm not destined to win the lottery. I'm not destined to come into a load of inheritance. I've had no silver spoon. There was no West Wing on a council estate. So it was like there was no other option. It was just really learning that self-education was for me. You know, I didn't do well at school. I didn't take to school. I didn't like the classroom format. And you can look back now and you can see how are some children who just aren't learning that well meant to be in a classroom with one teacher and you've got 30 people. It's impossible, right? So, but when I discovered entrepreneurship coming into my late teens and understood that I wanted to make money because it was going to solve a problem that I had, I went on this like rampant journey of self-education, and light bulb moment went off and I was like, I need to get around the right people. And I was just saying on the live stream, exactly the same. I went into networking. I didn't have a product. I didn't have a business. I just started surrounding myself with all different types of successful people. And my eyes were just like, wow.
How did you get in front of those people? And what, you know, if you didn't have a product or a business, I mean, you know, how did you network? What did you have to talk about with them?
It was just an old sort of family friend of mine who was in property. And he just sort of said, did you want to come to London? There's a couple of events. It started with just like networking. I didn't even know what it was. It started at like property events, went to a couple of like business breakfasts where you sit around a table, you have a bit of breakfast, you pay 20 quid for a ticket and you get to talk with other people. And going from the people that I was around once upon a time that, you know, were quite nasty people. They had no ambition. They wanted to live on the council estate. They wanted to sponge off the government. Hearing that type of conversation to people who were talking about money, millions of pounds and business and revenue and profit and loss and all this kind of thing, I was blown away. And I just thought, this is where I need to be. And this is why even today, you know, I spend so much time in London, because it's just ambition, it's hustle, it's the bustle, and I absolutely love it. So as soon as I started networking, I had no product, no service, but I had that likability factor just to build relationships, and it took off from there.
That's what I love so much about being here in Dubai. And I had never been to Dubai before I moved here, but I always used to, for example, love to go to London, not Leeds, or like to be in, I don't know. I lived in Vegas for a time. Spent time in Los Angeles, New York, these kind of places, because the energy and the opportunity there, it was always more so for me than it was in Leeds. But then when you come to Dubai as well, I think it's just another level again on steroids. And we were talking on your podcast about the people we surround ourselves with. But what I think is so great about the people here is that whatever level of, let's say, the corporate ladder or the wealth ladder they are, they've all got that same hungry mindset to come here and do better. Even taking it to its very extreme, and talk about the people who come over from India or Pakistan or wherever it may be to come and work as maids or cleaners or whatever they do, just because they know that by doing it here, there's more opportunity, there's more money, and they can literally live a life here and ship home 70% of the wages back back to support their family. So yeah, I mean, that importance of being around the right people just cannot be overstated. I mean, just to ask you, just to rewind back to your family again for a minute, because you said that obviously your parents, they had good habits and they imparted a lot of good stuff into you, and they didn't go into debt. You'd only have something if you could afford it. Tell me, why do you think then, if they had those good foundations, those solid foundations, and they remind me very much as well of a lot of people that I would know. I mean, my both of my parents, before my dad made money, came from a poor background. They were well, my dad was a single child, but my mom was one of 5 or 6. All their parents were from council estates, etc. But they were, let's say, what I'd say, the good ones. They were nice. They were nice people. They saved, they didn't get into debt, but they also never got out of it, and never never had any financial success. If these people have got the foundations, have got the good habits, why do you think they can't go one step further?
I think education. I think not knowing. I think also burying the head in the sand. I think getting comfortable, maybe not realizing actually what could be. I think not visualizing and actually then going and seeing. I don't know if my mum and dad personally have ever spent time walking around London or even in Mayfair. If you can't, I'm a believer, if you can't see it, smell it, and be around it and see some of the end product of what could be, I don't think you really know it's possible. So it's almost a little bit, it's almost naivety of there's this whole world out there. So like Dubai, I have so many friends that have come back or now live out in Dubai, and the whole cliche of, oh, it's amazing. And I'm having really good friends that I trust come back and say, Aaron, shit you not, it's another world and it's only just begun. And it makes me even think, is there more possibility to it? You don't know unless you visualize it and see it and smell it and touch it. And I think my parents never truly did, if you know what I mean.
I think as well, what you've got to add to that visualization as well as belief. And I think obviously, I wanted to know your answer, because you lived it first generation, where I was effectively second generation, and didn't get to be brought up in it. But I mean, I think very much for all those people who are in poverty, or certainly not in wealth, but have the good habits and have the foundations. For me, the real thing that's stopping the move forward is that lack of belief that it's always very much that we haven't got this because we shouldn't have it. It's the other people that get that money, that they're the bosses, they're the successful ones, and it's I say it's a simple mindset shift. It's always everything's simple for us, isn't it? Because we've done it, or we've got it. But I believe that ultimately, so many of the things I get or have got or will get, I get them because I believe I can. And I can wake up every morning and say, "Hey, I'm a winner," or I can wake up every morning and be a loser or a bit despondent. And I think that simple framing of every situation, that framing of yourself, really does dictate the outcome so much more than people would ever believe.
I think belief is the core. From a young age, I've always believed that I was going to be more than an average person. I just have. There is, if I look at a lot of trades, you have to have some borderline arrogance that it's going to pull off. You have to have some doolah lally that you are going to make it, because I think you've got to be your biggest cheerleader first. No one else is going to tell you that you can sell a company for 10, 20 million. You know, my family, I suppose, they never really knew of anything outside of what they were doing. So there was never any belief to think that there was more. When I started seeing that, you know, you can come from nothing and do something pretty damn good, then it's like, right, I need to start believing that this is possible. It's tangible. And I have to say, I've always been confident. I've always been outspoken. I've always been loud. Just like you said on my podcast, I've always known what I wanted. Even in my last job, when I started that, and I was there over 7 years, I knew that was not going to be me forever. It was a stepping stone. I knew I was always going to be an entrepreneur. I've just always known it in my belly. I've had this fire. I didn't like school, but I can make quick decisions. I can be logical. I can be proactive. I can be a bit reactive. I can lead. I can bring people together. I can just do things that the average person, in my opinion, won't do. And I have levels of discipline, and I'm willing to make sacrifices, whatever they may be, in order to achieve the next goal. So I've always had that from a young age. No one's put that into me. It's just, I think I played high levels of sport. I did combat sports for many years, and my discipline really allowed me to believe if you work hard enough and smart enough and you show up on the days that you really don't fucking want to, the likelihood is you're going to get the result that you want. It was that simple.
Tell me, you had a child, became a father when you were 20. Was that planned?
Yes and no. I think I liked some of what you liked. and that was the byproduct.
Yeah, well, you've much more politely described it than how I always describe it with mine. But okay, and how did that change you? I mean, I guess at 20 you'd probably moved off the troubled path and moved on to let's say the ambitious path. But I mean, did it inspire you? Did it hold you back? Did it did it give you a new vision?
Yeah, it made me more selfless. You know, I realized, and my little boy's upstairs now, he's nearly 11. When he came into our lives, we had no money. We shared one old car. We had a lot of bills. We lived on the orange, on the petrol, you know, when you got that last 50 miles on the clock.
Yeah.
We didn't have any money. Like, we had nothing. So from there was only one direction, but what he gave me was like real true direction and purpose. And I just thought, this little man, I want him to have absolutely everything. I want him to have all the options. You know, I want to be able to, in fact, I've done a bit of bribing. You know, when he'd scream in Sainsbury's or somewhere, I'd say, if you're quiet, I'll buy you something at Toys R Us. So I wanted him to have options. I didn't want him to, you know, when I leave this earth, I want him to have everything and anything he's ever wanted. And I'm willing to put my mind, body and soul to do whatever's necessary to make sure he has those options. And he's not spoiled. He has to work for what he has, and he's very clued up. But yeah, having my son at an early age, there was that moment where I was like, oh, I'm quite young to have a kid. But in hindsight now, I look back, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I started my business journey like that. And I've never looked back. And he took me away from people that I needed to cut off, and I did that in a heartbeat. So yeah.
And when you talk about your business journey, I mean, when did it actually start for you then? I mean, did you work for someone else initially, or what was the makeup of the plan?
Yeah, so I was in the employed world, you know, to pay bills and everything like that. But I'd started the journey whilst I was in employment, which kind of led me up to where I am now in terms of having an educational company that allows people to understand the process, the steps, the guidance to building a business whilst in the employed world. And I started, it's so funny that you were talking about, you know, a lady at reception sitting there reading her book and not making the most of it. You know, I'll happily say this now. I pretty much built my first business whilst I was working 40 plus hours a week. I slept less. I was only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night. I was working in the morning. I was working at night. I barely slept. I worked for the first 2-3 years, Saturday and Sunday, because I wanted a different life. And I would work in the pockets during my employed hours, canteen breaks, just before work, in the car, even during work, you know, when there was no managers about, I would do everything. AirPods in, on the phone, marketing, invoicing, messaging people, building the podcast, like everything. So I was working in employment, but I got myself to a position where I was earning enough in my business. By 23, I'd gone over six figures in my business, and I was still in an employed job. But then, like you were saying, I built up a big old emergency fund. I've done a YouTube video on it. I think in a couple of years, I built up an emergency fund of about 11.5 grand. I had a maintenance fund, which was like something like 6 grand. I had a floating fund, which was like 3-4 grand. And I've never touched those today. So I was building the fundamentals. So when I was about to leave, I was financially okay. And then years later, I did leave, but I think I did all the right things.
One of the things we spoke about on your podcast, because you're asking me to tell your audience about, what the reality is versus the fast wealth mentality or quick buck mentality of social media. And I was talking about the fact that, obviously you have to be prepared for years of blood, sweat and tears and sacrifice, etc. But then I also went on to say that I think if you're going to own a business for the long term, then that doesn't stop in the beginning, and it's still very much what I do now. And that I miss dinners, I piss off the missus, I sit on my phone all the time. Now, maybe some of that is down to my personal choice, because that is my interest. But how much would you back up what I'm saying as a more experienced business owner now, 8 years on?
100%. I don't ever stop working. I'm up at 10 to 5 every morning. I go to bed at midnight. I choose to sleep less. I don't need to. I'm very physically fit, mentally and in physical shape. I'm very lean. Just my life is well managed. Do I work at the weekend still? Yeah, because I choose to. I don't think if you really want to make something a success and you love it, you don't really want to take your foot off the pedal, because there's something called momentum, and there's good momentum and then there's negative momentum. And I feel that if you're really trying to push yourself, whether you're in the gym, if you can do 15 reps and you stop at 12, it's almost like, well, you had 15, possibly 16 in. Why did you stop at 12? So I find the same in business. And, for me, staying very physically fit really helps me to push through barriers in the business world. And I love it. And like you, is that I sit on my phone a lot, I'm constantly making notes, constantly liaising with people, constantly having meetings, and always booking in my time because I love it. But then I wouldn't want to do anything else. Like when I asked you, I wouldn't survive one day if I went back into a job. Honestly, I wouldn't last one day. It would not last one day.
Where's your missus's head at in all of this, and maybe answer that across the years of the relationship as well? Because I know you say when you guys first got together, she had the money and she was supporting you. But I guess to give it more context to the question, I mean, I always said that if you want success in anything, whether that's in business, whether you're trying to be a professional footballer, whatever you want to do, if you want that success, I always say you've got to have the right partner, or you've got to have no partner. And I probably sit somewhere between the two in that, in that, and should probably be earwigging in the house somewhere, giving me shit for saying it. But, I don't feel supported in my journey, because, obviously my missus has got her own interests, which normally revolve around wanting TLC and attention that I'm unable or unwilling to give, because I'm focused on my journey. But I guess when I say I'm a hybrid between the two, is because I will just single-mindedly ignore it and say, well, fuck you, this is my dreams, this is my goals, this is what I'm going to do, which ultimately don't build the best relationship. But I guess I'm either going to be happy in a relationship and unhappy in my own head, or happy in my own head and the relationship will find its way. But talk to me a bit about your missus and how you would agree or disagree with what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I think firstly, as entrepreneurs or people that have aspirations to do a lot, I think the first thing is, I don't think either way, whatever way you look at this, we're still going to do exactly what we want to do, right? My entire life, I have done whatever I want to do, whether it was the right thing or whether it wasn't. No one's going to tell me you're not doing that. If I want to do it, whether it's my partner, my mum, my dad, my son, I'm doing it if I really want to do it. So that's the first thing. So then it's kind of working boundaries around that and what's right and what's negotiable and what you should talk about. But yeah, from the very beginning, I mean, she supported me from the very beginning. When we were together years ago, when we first met, before we got married and stuff like that, I had no money. So like if we went out for a meal in the beginning, I just didn't have the money. So, she might fork up for the meal and stuff like this. But what she has done is the support has always been there. And people do ask me, even to this day, is that I'm struggling to talk to my partner about my aspirations or leaving the job or starting a business. And I've always been supported. So my wife has always said, just make it work. And she gets sick of me here, talking about business and hearing my Zoom meetings and stuff like that, like the good, the bad, the ugly. But she's never pushed back and said, you're not doing that. And I think that's what's allowed me to really pursue things, is that I've never had the pushback of you're not doing that. It's always just been, if you're going to do this, don't half-heart it, make it work for us, for me and, our boy. So that's played a, but anyone else, you've already said it. You're either going to have support or you're going to do it alone. You have to align.
I think as well. You were saying a minute ago. I've just gone completely blank. I've just gone completely blank on what I was going to say. That's the age kicking in. No, you were saying that you have always done exactly what you want. And I think that is so important. And listen, I mean, there's boundaries to whatever you want. Look, we can all do whatever we want, but there will be consequences. But I guess there's things we can do that probably won't have horrendous consequences that we just don't do because we're trying to keep someone else happy or trying to live live in the confines of invisible constraints, if you like. But I do believe that most people, probably 90% of the people, don't do anything near like as much as what they want, whether that's living the life they want, getting the education they want, being with the missus they want, with the friends they want, doing what they want when they're with that missus or mister. And I think ultimately all it does is just build up more and more and more pent up frustration that I guess best case scenario is you die regretful, and worst case scenario is there's some huge blow up along the way. And I always see, I go on a lot of, let's say, stag doey type work trips, holidays, networking things, or I'll go out with corporates on a Friday night or something, particularly back in England. And as soon as the people that I go out with get there, or maybe not so much the people I go out with, otherwise I wouldn't spend that much time with them, but the people you see, they're a fucking mess 1 hour into being out. These people are pissed up, coked up, shagging a brass, getting in such a mess because they can't wait to get away from the life and the wife that they fucking hate. Yeah. And this is this 24 hours or 72 hours chance to live in some blind, drugged up, drunken state and forget the shit life that they've got. And this doesn't this might come down to, let's say, working for someone when you could have a business, but I mean they're pretty big things that maybe take a bit more thought. But so many of these people are just, like I say, with the wrong group of friends, in the wrong relationship, just living a life in completely the direction they don't want to be in, that ultimately just explodes in disaster.
This is what gets me, is that you've kind of touched on it. I used to have guys who would come into work and they'd say, "Oh, I can't wait. I can't be asked to go home. She's moaning at me," or, "I can't wait to go on this holiday. Get away from this hellhole. It's, shit here." And I used to think they didn't know I was building a business. I kept it very low key, right? I was very quiet about it all. And I used to think, if you don't fucking like it, why aren't you changing it? And the God's honest answer, if you really dive into it, it's because they haven't got the fucking money to. That's what irritates me. They've been so shit with money over 15, 20 years. They have no choice. They've been suppressed. Big guys, fully grown adults, men, women, they don't say a word. They put up with this life that they live because they have no other choice. They have not given themselves the option because they've been so crap with money. So, when you hear people say, you know, oh, my life's so shit, or I'm fed up, you know, cost of living, the recession and all this lot. Really, a lot of it comes down to their financial problems. And, you know, you'll know this as well, but one thing money has done, I'm more calm, collected. I make more rational decisions. I think clearly. I don't argue at home. I don't argue with my family. I don't have worries, you know, whereas you look at sort of like the average poor mindset, they can't wait to get away from their partners. They can't wait to live for the weekend. They're hanging around with people that don't give a shit about them and they don't really care about them either way. And it all pretty much stems from really bad financial habits and the situation they've got them into. So, yeah, I saw it all the time, and which is why I just stayed away from it all. And even to this day, you know, ruthless as it is, I've cut family members off like that. Don't think twice about it. Sleep like a baby. I just have zero tolerance. And I shit you not, this isn't even an over exaggeration. If I hear one word out of someone's mouth moaning about life, I'm out. I'm out because I've worn every t-shirt, Matt. I can't stand people who pity party and play an out of tune violin. I just can't fucking stand it. So as soon as I hear a whisper of someone's moan, ta-ta, I'm off. That's literally, I'm so ruthless, dude.
I think obviously what you say about money, yes, has a massive impact. That if you haven't got that financial base, it does very much limit your options. But I do have to add on to that, you know, mindset / balls, because I mean, you know, now you're in completely different circles to what you grew up in. You know, how many wealthy people do you see who've got the money, who've got the opportunity, but just don't take it because either they're in a relationship that they don't want to be in, or they feel that they can't do something because it defies social norms or whatever it may be. And I always, when I talk down this kind of avenue, I always spring to mind 2 or 3 very wealthy guys I know that'll sometimes see me, whether it's going on a holiday or doing something on social media, and when we catch up, they're always going, "Oh God, I wish I could have your life." I'm like, listen, you've got 10 times the money and opportunity I have. You just don't fucking take any of it because you're either sat there pleasing other people or sat there scared to do something because you think it's wrong because the last 200 years of people have told you it's wrong, or because you're worried what people think. So yeah, having the money is important, but I think whenever we talk about money, I think people think that we're talking about mansions and boats and private jets. We spoke on your podcast that that the importance of money is that baseline, knowing there's a roof over your head, knowing there's a few months run money if things go wrong, being able to go to the supermarket without having to look at the price. Once that kind of stuff covered, above and beyond that, for me, it's balls and mindset.
Yeah, it's all freedom. Even today, when people say, "Oh, money is an evil thing, and you shouldn't talk about money, and it makes me feel awkward and wince and stuff like this," and it's like, but money is the tool to give you the time freedom that you so desperately want with your family. It's to provide you with the resources that you may not have had. And the whole thing of money being the root of all evil, I've done so much content on this, but honestly, it's actually, as you said, it just amplifies who you already are. But how you look after money will really determine how it looks after you, not only now, but a little bit in the future. And I think that's the other thing, is I've always been very good at painting the picture of what I would love in 10 years, 15 years and 20 years. Even when I was younger, in my teens, as crazy as it sounds, I was already thinking about, what do I want my life to be like at 45? And I started planning for my life at 45 in my 19, 20, 21 years old. I was already thinking, what do I need? Because I'm so hyper aware of what the state of the UK, obviously you're in the Dubai, in Dubai, but I'm so aware of how volatile it is that I've always been planning to ride waves, which is why I can't stand when people moan about these little dips like recessions and cost of living, that they moan about it. But yet, if you look over the last 100 financial years of history, I could tell you in the next 5 years, we're going to have another financial crash. How many people will plan for it? Not many, but they'll fucking moan when it comes round. Bonkers.
Well, let's talk about some of the businesses that you've got now. You've got your fingers in a few pies, and you were telling me before we started as well that Alan Sugar's a partner as well, or an investor in a business.
So Alan Sugar came on for Peak Performance, which is our events company, I believe it was last February. So he came on as a sponsor partner, where he then very kindly, through one of his law firms, trademarked us globally. They're actually in a legal, well, they're soon to be in like a legal dispute for a trademark of a company that's just come to market, which is crossing over in the sections of trademarking into our section. So there's going to be a dispute going on there where, in the words of their law firm, we'll tell them to fuck off, is the words of their law firm. So yeah, we have an events company which I co-founded. The actual business, the firm that got me out of my 9 to 5 was starting. It's not a brokerage as such. It's more of a middleman effect from investor to client product. And that went into sort of high ticket commissions. And then I found very unique structures in helping investors acquire land, sites, products, loan notes, stuff like that. And that allowed me to build up enough capital and to systemize that type of business that I was able to keep recycling investors' funds. And then it was just a case of, right, the more investors now, the more investors I can serve, the more we can actually scale this up to get me out of my job, which I was able to do. And then from there, I started a consulting side of the business, which started off basically helping and guiding people to work with family offices, because that was so unique at the time. So I wrote a couple of books and stuff, put them on Amazon. They did very well. I sort of started running some mastermind communities around raising investment, because that's what I became good at. And then from there, I sort of dibble dabbled in property, tried a few things. I had an eBay shop once upon a time, which did okay. I've tried a few things, and then really found my way through social media. Started an educational company, co-founded this events company nearly 2 years ago now. And obviously I'm still growing. And then throughout that, we live a very humble life, by the way, Matt. I forgot to say, we have high earnings, but very, very small expenditure. So we barely spend anything. So what that allowed us to do was cash stack. And then obviously, you know what it's like when you cash that, you want to start moving that money, and then started lending out my own money myself. So yeah, I got my fingers in a few pies, but I'm still so early in the journey, mate. As you know, I'm only really coming up 10 years in this. So yeah.
Are you still a saver now, or are you a bit more of a spender as time's gone on?
Dude, I'm sitting here in my own merch, and I got Primark joggers on. I don't spend a penny.
Zara,
we got a nice holiday. We got nice stuff, we had Netflix approach me for Rich Holiday, Poor Holiday. We had Channel 4 approach us last year. I get a lot of PR opportunities through obviously the growth on TikTok. We've just gone over 276 million views in the last 17 months. So that's been insane. But we don't spend money. We go on nice holidays and stuff, but we're not materialistic people like you. If I was to go out and buy a Rolex right now, I'd have a dopamine hit for probably about 4 hours, and then it'd end. It's the truth of it.
You mentioned TikTok. Talk to me a little bit about social media growth, how it's happened for you, and I guess how you can bottle that for some of my audience who were struggling to make the mark on social and build that brand.
Organic, relatable, transparent, consistent, high volume of quantity mixed with quality content.
What does high volume mean? What kind of quantity?
Well, in the first 6 months, I mean, I grew from 0 to over 100,000 followers on TikTok in less than, it was like 6 months, because I was posting 5 times a day, really looking at the analytics, I was really measuring what was working, and it was resonating with people. I think the more you can pretend to be someone, the less you can pretend to be someone, and the more you just, but also no one likes fucking boring. I've been very outspoken in a lot of my content. Like, I'm very out there. And that's just me as a person, and it worked and it resonates. I'm Marmite, and I have a great push and pull. You either like me or you don't. It's neither here or there, but there's no sitting on the fence with me. And I think that's what people can have, the push and pull effect. So I grew very quickly. Last year, did over £100,000 in collective revenue just from TikTok alone. Built a brand new company off of it. I've been invited to all kinds of stuff, red carpet event. You name it. Last year, I did it last year. TV shows I was invited on. This year, I'm getting free restaurant offers, hotel offers I've had now. This year is going to be a massive year, just predominantly even off of TikTok.
Well, listen, Aaron, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, buddy. I've enjoyed our chat. I've enjoyed chatting with you on your podcast too. And I'm sure if the last 8 or 9 years are anything to go by, the next 8 or 9 years are gonna compound at scale for you, buddy. Just before you go, give yourself a little shout out on where people can find you, follow you, come shopping with you.
Aaron Knightley on everything. Just that's the handle. Aaron Knightley official on Instagram, TikTok. Aaron Knightley. There's only one of me. I follow 0 people because there's so many scam accounts, and that's it. Aaron Knightley on everything, mate. Super simple.
And if you are listening to this, not watching it, Aaron is Aaron, because to me that's Aaron. But I got put in my place before we started. All right, buddy. Listen, thanks a lot for being here, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thanks, mate.